welcome back, my brave and beautiful humans, to another episode of Soul Hygiene. I have my wonderful friend, Mr. Caleb, here with us today. He's been on the show before, but I'm pretty excited today because Mr. Caleb's a new daddy. He has a new baby, and I got to see her, and I'm so excited. Um, but we were just gonna catch up, and I was like, let's talk about something you posted on your Instagram the other day. We got to chat, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna hit record and record an episode just to you know, talk about this because I think it's pretty common, but it's not common. So I'm gonna give you the version I heard as a child. The phrase was guilty by association. Mr. Caleb posted on his Instagram the other day. I don't know what day it was, the adult version of what that means as we get older. So I'm going to turn it over to him, let him kind of tell you what he's been up to, and then give us the adult version of what that means now in our lives. So welcome back to the show, Mr. Caleb.
Thanks for having me again. Always lovely to hang with you. And
Yeah.
what have I been up to? Well, I've been being up to being a. You hear her cooing in the background? Okay, I don't know if
Yeah.
or not. She's a little celebratory little thing. She looks a lot like her mother. My wife is spitting image. Both of them came out with a whole bunch of hair. So
That hair on her, man.
incredible. My wife's heartburn was banana sandwiches. It was
Oh,
just she never had heartburn before, and when she had it, she was like somebody told her, "It's like you have heartburn, honey," and she was like, "Oh, okay." And then she started having Tums for the first time in her life. So
she's
anyway,
adorable. She's adorable.
yeah. So that's what I've mostly been up to, along with serving clients. And I like to say, if anybody knows me, like I like to help you get closer to the best version of yourself. So on a spiritual, you tell him, Remy, you tell him, girl. Uh, a spiritual, mental, and physical level, all the things, and business level, all those things. Um, so I didn't even know that post meant anything until you just told me. But here we go. Cool. Yeah. So the version of the post we were talking about was uh, your the company you keep is a reflection of your values.
Yes.
And the truth. I'm
Hmm.
sure people have heard you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with, things of that nature, or show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Yep.
It's all. But this really impacted me the most. I still remember it was, I don't want to say 7, 8 years ago, maybe a little longer. This is when I was at when I owned my second gym. My friend and business partner, he was running the meeting. We had a pretty big staff at this time. And I had this, we'll call it divine intervention kind of moment where I just like sat back and I truly like sat back into the place of the observer. I really stopped paying attention to what was everything he was saying because I'm like, I kind of knew what he needed to talk about. So I could zone out and just witness. But I went down the line of every person in the room and I'm like, oh, they're all just a reflection of me. They're all a part of me. And it really stuck out. I was like, oh, we brought them on when I was doing this and what I wanted there. And that's what I was feeling then. And then he's this and she's that. And all of them, just like a thing about what I valued, the good, the bad, the everything in between, my frustrations, the things I thought were great, all of it. And I realized like, it's all just me. So a couple of things have come from that type of reflection in that I have I like to say I've worked very hard to evolve into a place where I don't believe I have any enemies because theoretically we are all one. And if I see that person and I am they're my enemy, I am truly just at war with myself. That's one element. The other side of it is also it's taken me on a very deep journey to be very clear on what my values are, on what the things I care
Mm.
about, what I place my value and time and energy on, because I want to be very clear on who I'm sharing my time with. Who am I bringing into my life? What are the things they care about? Not only just, you know, most people just think like, oh, what am I going to get? Like rich and this and that. No. How do they take care of their health? What does their family life look like? How do they talk about other people? How do they express themselves? What are the values that they truly espouse? And go figure, that tends to also be, they tend to be more successful both in their physical health, more successful in their relational health, their friends, their family, what have you. And also they tend to be more very discerning business owners. They tend to be very successful, be very high performers at very specific things because they work at that. Um, but it's one of the more profound and very easy things you can do to level up your life.
Mm-hmm.
In behavior change, whether it's you want to lose weight or you want to make more money, accountability is the key. But most people try to white knuckle it through it. They just have to try to willpower themselves through every day. That's not a sustainable strategy. Willpower, as she's willpowering herself through the puzzle, willpower is a short-term strategy when you are trying to, because stuff's going to happen in life. No day is
Mm-hmm.
perfect. You're gonna have a shitstorm. It's coming. And on those days, you need to sometimes just toughen up and deal with it. That's life. Like, deal with it. But in general, what you actually want to do is make it very easy and obvious what you need to be doing. What is the best thing for you? So when you're very discerning about putting people in your life, because it's ultimately a social thing,
Mm-hmm.
are social creatures, the people that you're going to choose to socialize with, connect with, essentially share ideas and have that echoed back to you at all times. When you're very discerning about that, naturally you're going to lean a little bit more towards the way they do things. And that's a beautiful thing. You still need to have some agency over yourself because at the end of the day, you will choose for yourself and somebody will have a rough day and they might not be perfect. But let's call it 80, 90, 95% of the time, if they always fall within that framework, you're not going to get too far off track. You're going to have some decent bumpers in your life that are going to continue to propel you towards the things that you want. So getting, again, very clear on your core values. How do they espouse that? How do they express that? If you don't know your core values, guess what? You're throwing darts at a board trying to pick people with the same core values. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You figure them out. The way people speak and then the way they subsequently behave will be very obvious. It's very quick to decide who you want to be around. And secondarily, what are the goals? What is the lifestyle that they have, or what they're aspiring for, what they're working towards? You choose those two things. It's basically inevitable that you're going to get there because, again, within a social nature, when you just are going and hanging out with your friends and you just so happen to connect while doing the behaviors that work, that you enjoy, that are also in alignment with your values and the goals you're going to, you're going to be a happy person. You're going to get the result that you want. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And in fact, you probably are going to accelerate that time frame because you're not going to get distracted by other things. So long rant over of that's actually why the you keep in your life are so super important. And especially since we're in that holiday season where Thanksgiving and then ultimately
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff gets serious, start
Yeah.
to get real. It's yeah, yeah, I know, Remy. You start to see how things get a little squirrely when values sometimes collide. So it's good.
Yes, for sure. And that's what I had told you before we started. I was like, in this holiday season, this is probably a good um, subject to talk about. Um,
Yeah.
I totally related to this comment because growing up in a Christian home, your parents try to instill that value in you of who you hang out with, whether you're doing what they're doing or not, you're still guilty, you know. Um, and so when you posted that, I was like, man, I can relate that to my adult life
Mhm.
now, going through all those years of being around the wrong people, having the wrong mindset, abuse comes, narcissistic tendencies come, just all these things that surround you that are negative. And
Yeah.
then when I switched my mindset from a victim mentality to a victorious one and was like, forget this, I'm going to start healing, I'm going to be a better person. Like all these new people just started coming into my life, encouraging me to continue on that journey and supporting me and believing in me. You, one of those people who now we've known each other for a little while. Um, and now I'm on a weight loss journey, so it's, to me, it really was like a simple but profound statement. Um, and of course, I deal a lot with the inside and with the soul, but it also relates to the society we live in, right? I mean, if your value is in materialistic things, well, you know, you're going to be one of those people fighting at Walmart for a 75-inch TV on Black Friday. you know, um,
Yeah.
it's it amazes me where people set their priorities and their core values. Um, but I am very blessed that to have friends like you and the people that have come into my life who have similar core values,
Mm.
you know. And there's Miss Remy. Oh, and
Well,
if you
thanks.
guys can see this video and see her hair, I mean,
It's
that is so crazy how much hair she has.
usually I have a
That's
little bow.
adorable.
You said something very important in there. You would like what I posted so I did a live like walk and talk thing on Instagram today. It was what mindset are you voting for? It's
Oh,
not political anybody. Today is the day before the election. As
right,
we're
right, right.
though I did get a couple people who are like responded and like go listen to the third statement. And if you took it as a political thing, that's on you. But like the victim mindset leads to certain things. The growth mindset leads to other things. Growth mindset inevitably comes with accountability. So what I heard there is you took accountability for whatever you could.
Mm-hmm.
And accountability is knowing who you are, what you're responsible for, what your actions are for. And that's so powerful because now you start to have agency. Who do I choose to put myself around? And what you said before, and I think some of the rhetoric or the language around like, especially like very deeply like religious backgrounds, it's a lot of like the word guilt you brought up there before. You're guilty by association. Yes and no. Like it's not guaranteed, and we do need to sort things
Mm-hmm.
out. Chances are, like how many times you don't know what opportunities you missed out on just because of the crowd you're hanging with.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say this on a very specific thing. When I had a fallout, a lot of information started to flow my way from a bunch of people who were like, I didn't want to tell you because I thought you were such and such. And I was like, oh, like people just avoided talking to me because they thought of X, Y, and Z. I
Right.
had no idea. So we don't even know what opportunities we're missing out on by staying lockstep, often with relationships that, when you're really honest with yourself, don't make you feel any better about yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
this is not, there's a difference between like being held accountable to your greatness and like, wow, I didn't like the way that sounded, but like I know they love me and they really actually want me to succeed versus like they pretend like they love me and but they actually say really mean things and they're just like
Right.
they don't believe in me. There's two very different things. I think we're in a very perverse part of the world right now where people don't understand accountability. True accountability is actually a very high form of unconditional love. There's acceptance and accountability in that framework there. So my long way of coming back to you having that agency over yourself and recognizing like I'm spending my energy here. Let me shift my energy. Let me really get clear on what is important to me and do that. But go figure. In the beginning, it doesn't feel like a big difference, but you
Mm-hmm.
give it a month, you give
Yeah.
it 3 months, you give it a year, 2 years, 5 years. It's that little like it's like the that ship that's on the water that gets turned just a little degree. In the beginning, you don't know, but it changes course a big time.
Yeah.
And that's why when I mean ultimately they're an account your social system's an accountability system. What are you being held accountable to? And that little bit over time, that little environmental shift makes so much difference. And that you being so intentional about that, it's really cool. I love it. It just makes me happy to hear you did that for yourself. And I've had to do it for myself too. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate that because I mean, you're completely right that at first it wasn't, I didn't see any difference. And then all of a sudden, I saw my circle change. My mindset, if something came at me, I was more apt to pause. Okay, let me think on this instead of reacting. Um, And 5 years into it, it's going to be almost 5 years. I wouldn't have imagined I would be this person. Did I have to go through all that trauma to be this person? Probably not. But I'm using, and God has helped me use those circumstances
Mm,
to be the person I am today
mm.
and to help others and show others that it's possible and give them hope. So I loved what you said. And I was like, oh, I hope we're going to talk about this. You have a great way of like just taking those simple little words and making them like expounding on them and making them simple for people to understand, you know? So I'm glad that you explained it. I'm
Well,
glad we
thank
have similar core values because we get along so well. And, you know,
likewise. And
yes.
you know what? Here's a fun thing I think many people need to think about. Like, thanks for allowing me to share those things. But also thank you for allowing me to share that with my daughter in tow. Because same thing with environment. I want her to be able to know that these kinds of conversations not only are possible, but they can actually be normal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is okay to have this healthy discourse. Because we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about some stuff here too. Like this isn't, it's not light.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what you said something about before, like soul, the internal. Well, a lot of the work that I think about here, like I heard a great quote once, and perhaps you'll reflect more on it, but like I heard all all growth is spiritual growth. Because ultimately, even material stuff, external stuff, we're interfacing something. How do we alter the spiritual if not with something physical to sometimes push against? We do have a physical body that houses a spiritual being. So I like to think of this more as like practical spirituality. The external results become a period of time, but in the beginning, it's a little bit about belief and taking
Mm-hmm.
those steps. So the small little steps of letting her listen in and be part of these conversations, even when she's a little fussy. I do believe like their environment, she's going to be soaking this type of information up, and I hope she only stands to benefit from deeper, more beautiful, more profound conversations like this. So my long way of
Oh,
saying, yeah, thank you so much. That's it.
that brought to mind, I don't know if you know, well, I'm sure you do. Tony Little, he created the Gazelle and he used to be like
Yeah.
this power fitness in the 80s, early 90s. His three words that he used to use all the time was conceive it, believe it, achieve it.
Mm,
But what I took the conceive to mean is, and that's what soul hygiene is, everything starts on the inside because you have to make a choice. You have to make that choice according to who you are and what you believe. So, where soul hygiene comes into play is exactly what you said. It is a spiritual journey, whether people want to believe that or not. Everything we do starts from within. And what people see on the outside is our choice that we made on the inside.
mm.
So I love that you said that. That was, yeah, that kind of wraps everything together in a tight little bow. And
That's what I say. I love
I
it.
love that. I love that. And because Mr. Caleb is such an encourager to me, I am down 20 pounds. So I'm just excited about that. Um, yeah,
Woo-hoo.
he really got me thinking hard about my journey. And although some days are more difficult than others, it's okay. We just move forward every single day and determine that, the rest of our life is going to be better.
Get it,
So,
girl.
and that's all we can do, right?
Not that you need my validation, but I'm proud of you. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't, but it's always nice to have encouragement. So,
Hey,
yeah, for sure.
you have my, I love it. I love hearing it. Great.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Soul Hygiene. And we will talk to Mr. Caleb and Miss Remy some other time. And she'll probably be a little bit bigger, but I was so happy to have him on the show today. We'll see you later for another episode. Bye bye for now.